The Giver by Lois Lowry, Chapter 20. I want to go. I want to go home. You can't make me. Jonas sobbed and shouted and pounded the bed with his fist. Stop, Jonas, the Giver told him firmly. Jonas obeyed him, weeping, shuddering. He sat on the edge of the bed. He would not look at the Giver. You may stay here tonight. I want to talk to you, but you must be quiet now, while I notify your family unit. No one must hear you cry. Jonas looked up weakly. No one heard that little twin cry either. No one but my father. He collapsed himself again. The Giver waited silently. Finally, Jonas was able to quiet himself, and he sat huddled, his shoulders shaking. The Giver went to the wall speaker and clicked the switch on. Yes, receiver. How may I help you? Notify the new receiver's family unit that he will be staying with me tonight for additional training. I will take care of that, sir. Thank you for your instruction, the boy said. I will take it of that, sir. I will take it of that, sir. Jonas made in a cruel, sarcastic voice. I will do whatever you like, sir. I will kill people, sir. Old people, small newborn people. I'll be happy to kill them, sir. Thank you for your instructions, sir. How may I help? He couldn't seem to stop. The Giver grasped his shoulders firmly. Jonas fell silent and stared at him. Listen to me, Jonas. They can't help it. They know nothing. You say that to me once before. I say it because it's true. It's the way they live. It's the life that we was created for them. It's the same life that you would have if you had not been chosen as my successor. But he lied to me, Jonas wept. It was he was told to do, and he knows nothing else. What about you? Do you lie to me too? Jonas almost stopped the question at the Giver. I am empowered to lie, but I have never lied to you. Jonas started him. Really, is always like that? For people who break the rules 3 times for the old, do they kill the old too? Yes, it's true. And what about Fiona? She loves old. She is in training to care for them. Does she know yet? What will she do when she finds out? How will she feel? Jonas brushed wetness from his face with the back of the hand. Fiona is already being trained in the fight after realized. The Giver told him. She is very offended at her word. Your red-haired friend. Feelings are not part of the life she is learning. Jonas grabbed his arm around himself and rocked his own body back and forth. What should I do? I can't go back. I can't. The Giver stood up. First, I will order our evening meal. Then we'll eat. Jonas found himself using the nasty, sarcastic voice again. Then we'll have a sharing on feelings? The Giver gave a rueful anguish and empty laugh. Jonas, you and I are the only two who have feelings. We have been sharing them for almost a year. I'm sorry, Giver, Jonas said miserably. I don't mean to be so hateful, not to you. The Giver rubbed Jonas' hunched shoulder, and after we eat, he wound up. We'll make a plan. Jonas looked at puzzled. A plan for what? There is nothing we can do. It's always been this way. Before me, before you, before the ones who came before you. Back and back. His voice trailed in a familiar phrase. Jonas, the Giver said after a moment. It's true that it has been this way for what seems forever, but the memories tell us that it has not been always like that. People feel things once. You and I had been part of that, so we know that the ones feels things pride and sorrow and love, Jonas added. Remembering the family scene that had so affected him, and pain, he thought again the soldier. The worst part of holding the memories is not the pain, it's the loneliness for it. Memories need to be shared. I've started to share them with you, Jonas said, trying to cheer them. That's true, and having you here with me over the past years has made me realize that things must change. For years, I have felt like they should, but it seems so hopeless. Now, for the first time, I think there might be a way, the Giver said slowly, and you brought it to my attention barely. He glanced at the clock. 2 hours ago. Jonas watched him and listened. It was late at night now. They had talked and talked. Jonas swapped robe in a robe belonging to the Giver, the long robe that only elders wore. It was possible. What they had planned, barely possible. If it failed, he would very likely be killed. But what did that matter? If he stayed, his life was no longer worth living. Yes, he told the Giver. I will do it. I think I can do it. I'll try it anyway, but I want you to come with me. The Giver shook his head. Jonas, he said, the community has depended all this generation back on a resident receiver to to hold their memories for them. I've turned over many of them to you in the past year, and I can take them back. There is no way for me to get them back if I have given them. So if you escape once you are gone, and Jonas, you know that you can never return. Jonas nodded solemnly. It was the terrifying part. Yes, he said, I know, but if you come with me, the giver shook his head and made a gesture to silence him. He continued, if you get away, if you get beyond, if you get to elsewhere, it will mean that the community has to bear the burden themselves of the memories you had been holding for them. I think that they can, and they live acquire some wisdom, but it will be desperately hard for them. When we lost Rosemary 10 years ago, and her memories returned to the people, they panicked, and those were such few memories compared to yours. When your memories return, they'll need help. Remember how I helped you in the beginning, when the receiving of memories was new to you? Jonas nodded. It was scary at first, and it hurt a lot. You needed me then. And now they will. It's not to use. They'll find someone to take my place. They'll choose a new receiver. There is no one ready for training, no right way. All they speed up the selection, of course, but I can't think of another child who has the right qualities. There is a little female with pale eyes, but she is the only 6. That's correct. I know the one you mean. Her name is Kathryn, but she's too young, so they will be forced to be in those memories. I want you to come, Giver, Jonas pleaded. No, I have to stay here, the giver said firmly. I want to, Jonas. If I go with you, and together we take away all the protection for the memories, Jonas, the community will be left with no one to help them. There will be no thrown into chaos. They will destroy themselves. I can't go, Giver, Jonas suggests. You and I don't need to care about the rest of them. The giver looked at him with questioning smile. Jonas hung his head. Of course they need to care. It was the meaning of everything. And in any case, Jonas, the giver sighed, I would make it. I'm very weak now. Do you know that I no longer see colors? Jonas' heart broke. He reached for the giver's hand. You have the colors, the giver told him, and you have the courage. I will help you to have the strength. A year ago, Jonas reminded him, when I was just becoming 12, when I began to see the first color, you told me that the beginning had been different for you. That I wouldn't understand. The giver brightened. That's true. And do you know, Jonas, that with all your knowledge now, with all your memories, with all you have learned, still you won't understand? Because I've been a little selfish. I haven't given anything for you. I want to give for myself to the last. Keep what? When I was just a boy, younger than you, I began to come to me. But it wasn't seeing beyond for me. It was different for me. It was hearing beyond. Jonas frowned, trying to figure that out. What do you do here? He asked. Music, the giver said, smiling. I begin to hear something really remarkable, and it's called music. I'll give you some before I go. Jonas shook his head emphatically. No, giver, he said. I want you to keep that to have with you when I'm gone. Jonas went home the next morning, cheerfully greeted his parents, and lied easily about what a busy, pleasant night he had had. His father smiled and lied easily too about his busy and pleasant day the day before. Throughout the school day, as he did his lessons, Jonas went over the plan in his head. It seemed strangely simple. Jonas and the giver had gone over it and over it late into night hours. For the next 2 weeks, as the time of the December ceremony approached, the giver would transfer every memory of courage and strength that he could know to Jonas. He would need thus to help him find the elsewhere that they were both sure exist. They knew it would be a very difficult journey. Then in the middle of the night before the ceremony, Jonas would secretly leave his dwelling. This was probably the most dangerous part because it was a violation of the major rule for any citizens. No one official business to leave a dwelling at night. I will leave at midnight, Jonas said. The food collectors will be finished picking up the evening meal remains by then, and the pad maintenance crews don't start their work that early. So there won't be any more to see me, unless of course someone is out of emergency business. I don't know what you should do if you are seen, Jonas, the giver had said. I have memories, of course, of all kinds of escapes. People fleeing from terrible things through history, but every situation is individual. There is no memory of no one like this. I'll be careful, Jonas said. No one will see me. As a receiver, I'm trained. You held in every high spec already, so I think you won't be questioned every forcefully. I just say I wasn't some important errand for the receiver. I'd say it was all of your fault that I was out of hours, Jonas teased. They both laughed a little nervously, but Jonas was certain that he could slip away. From his house, carrying an extra set of clothing, silently he would take his bicycle to the riverbank and leave it in the hiding business with the clothing floated beside it. Then he would now make his way through the darkness on foot, silently to the annex. There is no nap time attendant, the giver explained. I will leave the door unlocked. You simply slip into the room. I'll be waiting for you. His parents would discover when they woke that he was gone. They would also find a cheerful note from Jonas on his bed telling them that he was going for an early morning ride along the river, that he would be back for the ceremony. His parents would be irritated but not alarmed. They would think him inconsiderate and they would plan to chase him here later. They would wait, with mounting anger, for him. Finally, they will be forced to go, taking a Lily to the ceremony with him. They won't say anything to anyone, though. Jonas said, quite certain. They won't call attention to my rudeness because I would reflect on my parenting. And anyway, everyone is so involved in the ceremony that they probably won't notice that I was not there. Not that I am 12 and training. I don't have to sit with my age group of anymore. So Asher will think I'm with my parents or with you, and your parents will assume you're with Asher or with me. Jonas shrugged. It will take everyone a while to realize that I'm not there all, and you and I will be long on our way by then. In the early morning, the giver would order a vehicle and driver from the speaker. He visited the other communities frequently, meeting with elders. His responsibility extended over all the surrounding areas, so this would be no unusual undertaking. Ordinarily, the giver did not attend the December ceremony. Last year he had been present because of the occasion of Jonas' election, in which he was ill involved, but his life was usually quite separate from that of the community. No one will comment on his absence, or in the fact that he has chosen this day to be away. When the driver and the vehicle arrived, the giver would send the driver some brief errand. During his absence, the giver would help Jonas hide in the storage area of the vehicle. He would have with him a bundle of food which the giver would save from his own meals during the next 2 weeks. The ceremony would begin, with all the community there, and by Jonas the giver would be on their way. By midday, Jonas' absence would become apparent and would cause a serious concern. The ceremony would be not disrupted. Such a disruption will be unthinkable, but searchers would be sent into the community. By the time his bike and clothing were found, the giver would be returning. Jonas by then would be on his own, making his journey elsewhere. The giver on his return would find the community in a state of confusion and panic, confronted by a situation which they had never faced before, and having no memories from which to find either solace or wisdom. They would not know what to do and what to seek his advice. He would go to the auditorium where the people would be gathered. Still, he would stride to the stage and command their attention. He would make the solemn announcement that Jonas had been lost in the river. He would immediately begin the ceremony of loss. Jonas, Jonas, they would say it loudly, as they had once said the name of Caleb. The giver would lead and chant. Together, they would let Jonas' presence in their lives fade away as they said his name in unison more slowly, softer and softer, until he was disappearing from them, until he was no more than a occasional murmur, and then, by the end of the long day, gone forever, not be mentioned again. Their attention would turn to overwhelming tasks of bearing the memories themselves. The giver would help them. Yes, I understand that they'll need you, Jonas had said at the end of lengthy discussion and planning, but I'll need you too. Please come with me. He knew that answer even as he made the final plea. My work will be finished, the giver had replied gently. I have helped the community to change and become whole. I'm grateful to you, Jonas, because without you, I would never have figured out a way to bring about the change. But your role now is to escape, and my role is to stay. But don't you want to be with me, giver? Jonas asked sadly. The giver hushed him. I love you, Jonas, he said, but I have another place to go. When my work here is finished, I want to be with my daughter. Jonas had been staring gloomily at the floor. Now he looked up startled. I didn't know you had a daughter, Giver. You told me that you had lost suppose, but I never knew about your daughter. The giver smiled and nodded. For the first time in their long months together, Jonas saw him look thoroughly happy. Her name was Rosemary, the giver said.